Milestones, not finish lines. Hello and welcome to Aiming Up. A paradox to be sure. This is the 8th and final post in the series about a series that focuses on the fact that there really isn't a finish line. We started with the difference between finite ambitions and playing an infinite game. From there, we explored finding a just cause that gives direction, building trust in our close circles so people can own problems instead of hiding them, learning from worthy rivals without turning growth into comparison, making room for real pivots when the old path starts holding us back, finding courage in the everyday yes and no, and expecting the resistance that shows up once we actually commit. We've reached a milestone, not a finish line. The problem with finish lines. What ties every piece together is this: life keeps going. There is no actual finish line. There may be stretches where you feel a bit ahead, even winning. But a win feels different when you're contributing to something that lets others keep playing after you step away. And there are times when you clearly see others ahead. Simon Sinek puts it plainly: finite games have clear endings and scoreboards. Infinite games don't. The point is to keep showing up, adapt as things change, and leave the game a little steadier or lighter for the next round. The infinite game, as we discussed in previous posts, is ideally your just cause. How many times have I finished a project, hit a target, or checked a box after pushing hard only to feel a bit of a letdown, or is that it? Or worse, I can't believe I spent that much time and energy doing that and missed out on something that was actually more important to me, like family time, or helping a friend, or something a bit more lasting. To be sure, I crossed it off my list, felt the quick rush, and then realized I still had the same quiet questions. Strangely, the emptiness is always a surprise. It's a reminder that the stuff that actually lasts, showing up for family, staying healthy and mobile, contributing without burning out, doesn't wrap up neatly. It keeps needing attention. Inputs, outputs, and outcomes. That's why the measure of progress has to change. I still use checkboxes, especially when I'm forming a new habit. They help me stay consistent with the inputs I can actually control. I like to reverse engineer from the outcome I care about: steadier energy, deeper connection, or a small positive ripple for someone else, back to the outputs that might support it, and then down to the daily inputs I can show up for. The checkboxes aren't the point, they're a tool. I try not to tie too much emotion to hitting everyone perfectly. If I'm doing the right inputs consistently, the right outcomes tend to show up in their own time. And if they don't, it gives me clearer insight to course correct, maybe tweak an input or even make a bigger pivot, without the spiral of feeling like I failed. It keeps the focus on direction. The right outputs contribute to a good outcome. A guiding light. Your just cause becomes the guiding light here, the outcome you're ultimately aiming for. When I refined mine to helping people build lives with less unnecessary friction and more real purpose, a lot of the scattered efforts started lining up. The workouts, reading, writing, video contributions, and relationships at work, publishing on Amazon, they stopped feeling like separate boxes to check. They became ways to advance that bigger direction, even on imperfect days. I still use checkboxes plenty, especially when building a new habit. They're useful for the daily inputs I can actually control. But they're only a means, never the end. A great example is Elon Musk. Most people look at one of his companies, say Tesla making electric cars, boring tunnels, satellite internet for the planet, a global communications and media network, AI technologies, or SpaceX launching rockets, and assume that's the finish line. In reality, those businesses are outputs, practical results that serve his larger just cause of making humanity multiplanetary by building a self-sustaining presence on Mars. The cars, rockets, batteries, robots, subterranean development, AI, and global communication systems all act as stepping stones. They're not the destination. They're tools that keep Musk's infinite game going. Collaboration fits in naturally too. When trust is present in our teams or family, it becomes safer for everyone to admit slips and keep contributing. I've seen it in small ways, sharing a tough stretch with a friend or colleague and watching how it opens space for both of us to adjust and keep going. It turns individual inputs into something that compounds because others feel invited to join rather than compete or withdraw.
Milestones, not finish lines.
None of this erases having goals or outputs. They give you direction for a stretch. The difference is treating them as markers along the way instead of the final stop. You train for something specific, reach it, recover, then keep caring for your body because life keeps asking for more than an event. You protect time for connection, strengthen it, then keep showing up because the relationship still matters years later. I expect you know the pattern. There are stretches where we chased the next milestone so hard, we stopped noticing whether the daily stuff felt sustainable. We look up after a win and realize we'd been short with people or ignore how drained we felt. Those moments taught me that being ahead shows up more in steadier days and small positive ripples than in dramatic checkmarks. To be sure, there are finite games that do need to be played. As noble and altruistic as our just cause might be, there are times when bills need to be paid, when we do have to win the finite game to stay in the infinite game. The practices from the series support each other here. A clear just cause keeps the direction honest. Trust makes adjustments possible without isolation. Worthy rivals highlight gaps you can close humbly. Pivots give permission to change course. Courage shows up in protecting the long view. Resistance reminds you that real movement usually stirs things up. If any part of the series resonated, sit with your just cause for a few minutes and notice one area where your current inputs already serve it, or where they could align a little better. No big overhaul, just honest reflection on the direction and one small movement that keeps the game going. A new starting line. We started this series from a normal, common place. We have busy lives, good intentions, and the usual mix of short-term and long-term objectives. We know there are better versions of ourselves, that's why we're aiming up. But better is relative to our just cause, our highest calling. Self-improvement can really only be considered a real improvement when it's in the direction you're aiming. Otherwise, it's suboptimal, wasted effort, or worse, a vanity project with no actual benefit. When our just cause is big enough, when our purpose is profound and meaningful, we'll never be finished, nor will we want to be. We finished this series, but the reality is, we're just at the next starting line. So let's stay in the game and keep aiming up.